Hello? Okay. I'm going to send around a clipboard with the membership list on it. If you could just please check off your name, and if you're not a member, could you sign your name on the back of one of the pages? Thank you.
All right, looks like we have a quorum here, and I think we do have some folks online still. Is that right? Maybe? Maybe not sure. Okay. So welcome to the June 2025 annual meeting of the First Parish Congregational Church, United Church of Christ in Yarmouth, Maine. And just by way of agenda, again, the articles are presentation, discussion, and action on the reports of the various officers, boards, committees, and call-based ministry groups. Article 2 is presentation, discussion, and action on the proposed 25-26 fiscal year budget. And Article 3 is presentation, discussion, and action on the report of the nominating committee and church council on the proposed slate of church officers, council members, deacons, and trustees to serve through the 25-26 fiscal year. We'll also have special comment at the end by Brenda Michelson, who's the chair of the search committee. Before we launch into this, I wanted to just make a couple of comments. And this has really been a special year in so many ways. Thanks especially, I think, to Jill. Jill has had remarkable leadership. When we think of interim, you sort of think, well, this is kind of a placeholder. But that ain't the case with Jill Small. And I just really can't say enough about how Jill's leadership as an interim minister is taking our conception of what First Parish could be through the reshape process that we had all had input into over a long time. She's really thoughtfully blended it with her own wisdom and her own experience and moved us forward in a way that we wouldn't have imagined could be possible. So we're now ready to begin a new phase in our church life. And so thank you so much. And so important as well is the work that's been done really by our fabulous staff. And I have, again, part of this is a reflection on Jill as well. I mean, Jill has really taken great pains to forge bond and working relationship with our staff so that they really are an incredibly effective part of our community. I think churches are unusual in that they're big volunteer organizations, but unless you have a core of people that also can make things happen in the real world, it doesn't always work very well. And we clearly have that remarkable staff here. I think Katie, particularly for her work with the development of new and innovative programs, which has been really astounding. The stuff online, the things that we see posted is really terrific. The broadening of our visibility on social media, the extension of our network really to involve the community around us. And then there's Lindsay, who's just sort of a get-it-done kind of person. I mean, she's in name a bookkeeper, but you have a question or something that needs to be done, and Lindsay takes care of it in cahoots with Tony and the trustees. And then Carol, Carol, I love walking into this building and seeing Carol there because the warmth that she generates and that true welcome of seeing her at that desk is just amazing. It's what we need, I think, to be the face of First Parish here. Amanda and Evan, with the joy and the wonderful music, not only on Sundays, but with the program that they developed a growing program of concerts, which is such an outreach. Community is spiritual and music as well. And then Jonathan, who's worked, I think, and done a terrific job to fix things around the church, to keep it clean, to keep it tidy, to make things happen with this important building and space that we have as well. And then, not lastly, but also to Rory and Kiki, our twins, who have faithfully been here every Sunday and helped with our online presence and that outreach when folks can't be here physically. Thanks to them as well. So I think just a round of thanks to our staff. And then not last is the fact that we've got this cloud of volunteers, many of whom sit in these pews here, that do the other work of the church. This is the heart of the church. And without you, without your presence, without your spirit, your gifts, your talents, your physical work, your mental energies, this would not happen. And I think it is really thanks to all of you that First Parish is strong, it is poised to grow, and it's going to continue to be a meaningful part of this world. So thank you all for as well. So our first item then of business is to accept the annual report or the reports from the individual committees, the various officers and call best ministry groups. They're present online and also in the written document that's present for you. If there's questions about any of those things, I realize that for some of you may be seeing them for the first time today, but for those that have looked at it and have any comments, you're welcome to bring them forward so we can answer those. Otherwise, we will entertain a movement to have those reports accepted. And I'm going to actually ask, Tony as an important part of this to make a comment about the financial status, the budget at the end of this fiscal year, and he'll address next year's budget as well. But Tony, do you want to address where we are from a standpoint of this the current ending year budget?
Thank you, John. We started fiscal year 25 approving the budget last year, and we were excessively optimistic, planning on pledges of $300,000, and we only received pledges at $271,000, which put us a little bit behind the 8 ball from day one. In addition to that, we had a few other challenges on the income side. We didn't do as much church space rental as we expected. Interest rates declined, and so our short-term investments didn't perform as well. But the main thing goes back to pledges. With 8 days left in the fiscal year, there's still $14,000 of this year's pledges that have not been paid by 27 different people in the community. Now, I just want to reiterate, a pledge is a statement of intention, of what you will and want to give. It's not a contract. It's not a... So it's understood and graciously accepted that life does not always progress as expected for everyone. It would be great help. And so we just ask people, do what you can. But if you still have pledges outstanding this year and are able, please try to get them in the next week. It really helps our accounting if things show up in the year in which they're promised, and it helps to balance the books. So that's just my pitch for you. And if you have questions about your pledges, just call the office or contact me, and we can help you check things out. And a big thank you throughout the year to many of you who gave even more than you pledged in money, in addition to all your other efforts as part of your stewardship here. So on the expense side of things, were mostly good news. There were a few unexpected large expenses having to do with a big rug cleaning and floor cleaning bill, a lot of maintenance on the old furnace before it got replaced, which thankfully is now done. A large expense to replace old copper phone lines for our security system phones and so on. However, even with these, all the major expense categories of the church came in under budget. So we have a nice balance, if you will, that we started a little bit in the hole, but some savings on expenses helped make up for that, as well as the extra giving that a number of people did. And I'll just say that again, with 8 days to go, I think a lot of our expenses are still underspending where we allocated them. And if some significant portion of the unpaid pledges this year are paid, we're going to end the year in balance. Income and expenses pretty close to equal, which I think is great work on everyone's part. And I want to say thank you about that and see if there are any questions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Your work is tireless and not always appreciated at so many levels, so thank you for all the work that you do with that. So does somebody want to put, there you go. So Judy Colby. All right, Judy Colby George, motion. All right, second from Pam Dietz. Any comments? Bryce.
This is just a clarification that I want to make in the annual report from the investment committee. If you care to look at it, it's on page 20, and I'm going to read exactly what the correction is. And this is as a result of some last minute changes that have been requested from the committee. It currently reads for the, and this is under the ministerial fund, the fourth and fifth sentences. It says, for the current fiscal year, the approved allocation was 4%. That percentage resulted in more than $61,000 being dispersed to the church to fund operating expenses. It now has to read, or should read, for the current fiscal year, the approved allocation was 5.5%. That percentage resulted in more than $84,300 being dispersed to the church to fund operating expenses. And the 5.5% is the maximum allowed under the investment policy statement for the investment committee. So I just wanted to make you aware of that change.
Any questions for Bryce? All right, so there's an addendum or correction that stands. I don't know if we need to make any additional motion with regards to that. No. All right. So we have the amended statements relative to the investment committee with the report, and we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Looks like a pretty solid majority, I think. Okay. Any against? And any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Great. Great. Thank you. All right, the second item is presentation, discussion, and action on the proposed 25-26 fiscal budget, and so I'll invite Tony back up here to go over that with you. Tony? No rest for the weary.
Thank you, John. In the annual report, you have before you the proposed budget in two different forms. First is a 3/4 page summary of the budget, and behind that is a 3-page detailed budget. So the details are for those of you that are curious about all the little dits and grits and accounts and so on, and the summary is for the rest of you. This budget has been under development and discussion for many months. The last minute great news that the search committee has found a new settled minister has required a lot of last minute adjustments, and big thanks to Seth and Bryce and all the members of the trustees and the investment committee to make this happen. The budget starts off with pledges. Okay, I'm back on pledges again. This year, the increase over last year's pledges is a more modest 3%. So we're much more realistic about that. However, we still need to get the pledges in. At this point, we've received 62 pledges from members compared to the 96 pledges we had last year. So, and this year, our pledges to date are 238,000, and our budgeted pledges for this year are 278,000. So we have about 40,000 of pledges we still need to get in from the 34 people that pledged last year haven't pledged this year. So that's where we're looking for in the budget. The new budget includes increases in the distribution from our endowment, both the ministerial fund and the parsonage fund. It also allocates almost all the proceeds of fundraising to pay for operating costs this year. I understand that we're looking for other ways to fund the community grant program that we've been doing for a number of years. So that's not dead. We're just having to figure out how to do it differently this year. Other income accounts are pretty much similar to last year. The revenue we get from the cell tower, from space rental, from interest and so on have all been adjusted. For cell tower, we get a few percent increase every year. Interest rates are down, so we adjusted the interest expectation down a little bit, etc. The major changes in expenses is the adjustment for the new minister's compensation, plus a number of other accounts have been changed. As I'm sure you all know, inflation hasn't stopped. Prices on almost everything we pay go up. So although the great majority of expense accounts are in the same range as last year, they've all been increased. From when we know about specific bills increases, we do that specifically. Otherwise, we apply about a 5% increase in things to cover both inflation and the unexpected. This is a balanced budget with a major assumption that we will achieve our goal on pledges. And that was true for last year, that's true this year. So that's the numbers on the budget. Any questions about the budget for next year? I'll give you my view of it, and Bryce or Seth can speak to that. Do you want to speak to that, Seth? Come on.
Sorry. Yes, so Sue's question was that there's money being drawn from the endowment. There's money being drawn from the endowment side of the funds, and also the ministerial fund amount has increased over past years. And so I think the question was, what's the thinking on that, or what's the... Sure. So I'll start with the endowment fund first. So the endowment fund, as it currently sets up, allows for 3 different buckets of money to be drawn. One is for mission and outreach, one is for continuing education, and the third is for, it escapes me, but it's in there. I'm sorry, capital improvements for the building.
That's from the parsonage fund. That's the parsonage. That's the parsonage. That's not in the same. That's parsonage.
They're one and the same. So they actually are, because when we look through the bylaws, that's the way it's set up. So the endowment and the parsonage fund are commingled. Yeah. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Ministerial fund I'll get to in a second. So the endowment / parsonage fund. So there's about $600,000 there. That money we've not tapped into historically. This year we did allow for a draw to replace the furnace, as is allowed. when we go through the investment policy statement, there are allowable draws. That's what's in the budget. So it's money for community concerts. It's money for some other community outreach. It's money for our church's wider mission. And it's not in the budget, but what we've started to talk about is also using that endowment money as a seed fund for the community outreach that was part of Clamfest and Christmas Fair fundraising. So the thinking specifically around that is if we go back, so let me switch to the ministerial fund. Ministerial fund has been around for a very long time. I don't know if it's been around since the founding of the church, but my understanding is one of the ways the church was founded was we had to prove that we had the resources to call a full-time settled minister. The ministerial fund currently is about 1.7 million. The exact numbers are here. That kicks off, as you saw, about $84,000 a year at the 5.5%. We would like to get that draw back down into the 3 or 4% range. In order to get that draw back down into the 3 or 4% range, to Tony's drum, we need to get pledge income up. So this year, the pledge income was set at last year's actual plus 3%. So we did not start at the $300,000 number from last year. We started with actual pledges and 271 and increase that by 3%. So what we're trying to do is represent what do we have actually and conservatively from a pledge perspective, but then also use the other funds and resources of the church. This is a big investment year. So it's a little tough. We know that there's 30-some, 40-some pledge units outstanding. I imagine some people are waiting to see who's the new settled minister. I would encourage you to come back next week. If you want to bring your pledge form with you and fill it out while you're here, even better. But that's, so in short, is the draw heavier? Yes. Is it long-term sustainable? No. And the way to address that is to drive pledge income back up. The other valve or pendulum swing that we used was Clamfest and Christmas Fair. And so now I'll stream off of what John talked about earlier. So if you haven't signed up for your shifts yet for Clamfest, please do. If we go way back to when I was a kid, which I would like to think was a few short years ago, but was longer, Clamfest used to supply about 30% of the operating budget for the church. So that's where associate ministers came from. That's where our fantastic music program came from. And we're not being recorded, right? But it is online. It was a nice tourist tax, right? It was a lot of funds that came from outside of our church community and allowed us to do a lot of things. In recent years, we've been fortunate enough, with enough support from all of you, that we've been able to run the operating budget off of pledge income. And we've had all that money from Clamfest and Christmas Fair in order to support other charities other than this church community. So right now that pendulum is shifted back a little bit. And what we'd like to do is make sure that we can still support those outside things, but that, again, that's going to require all of us to get there. So maybe a fuller answer than you were looking for, but that's the thinking.
Mary, I'm sorry. Mary?
It is, hold on. So the question is, where in revenue is what we're expecting from Clamfest and other? And if you look on the detailed budget on page 36, it is transfer, it's account number 4900. It's transfer from other funds of $36,000. Because the way it's set up in our chart of accounts right now, that's what it looks like. There was another question over there? No? Okay.
Just another little bit of financial trivia. This past year, the Clam Festival netted $39,000. of which we allocated $16,000 for church operations to help balance the budget this year, and something like a little over $23,000 went to charities, both local charities and other charities this year. We know there's a little change in the Clan Festival this year. We're doing a few less pies, a few other things, but we're also raising prices. So we're just guessing at what the revenue is. Being an accountant, I have to be conservative on this. So rather than the $39,000, we budgeted at $36,000 this year. I have hopes that it'll be a big success. We'll raise a whole lot more, and that will generate the extra funds that we could then look to use for bringing back some of the community grants. Other questions about the budget for next year? Mary?
I'm not sure that this is specifically about the budget, but I think that we need to be sensitive to our communication about the funds that we collect at Clan Festival and Christmas Fair, because for the past few years, I think the message has been that those have gone out. So if we are messaging that at Clan Festival or other places, we just need to be careful about it's not all.
That's a good point. Everyone working on the Clam Festival, especially communications. If we still have residual language in there that talks about the funds going to charitable things, we just need to revise that and say this is helping to support the church's operations. Other questions or comments?
I'll just make a comment that, we're kind of on the threshold of a new chapter, and so maybe, we had a wonderful partnership with 317 Main for a while, and we have other things like that, and maybe going forward, we need to be looking for what are the other opportunities that we have in the community to partner and bring in revenue. So, not to discuss now, but just kind of be thinking, okay, where do we want to head with all of this, and what opportunities might be there that would be good for us.
Yeah, I know Katie is working on that, partnering with other organizations, especially from the point of view of making our space here available to other organizations. So again, we push our goal of we're a community organization. We're a big part of this community. We want to be a big part of this community, and part of that sharing our facilities. And we hope in the sharing there might be a little money heading our way also to help that. So that's another area where I think we can grow in the future.
I think that in the past, somewhere, and I think it was in the annual report, we also showed the flow through to charities. So we collect in the plates, neighbors and neighbors to UCC charity. It's not part of our budget, but it comes into our plate and it goes out. And we've done other special collections for different groups that kind of come in and out. And I think those things that do churn through our checkbook, I guess, even though it isn't a budget item, it would be nice to list that because it does continue to talk about our generosity.
Seth?
Yeah, but I think that's a good point. We should add a section in the annual report that talks about what you call the flow-through giving that we do. So all of our special collections, special offerings that we do are a straight flow-through. We collect the money, 100% of it goes right out to the designated organizations, okay? In the annual report, there's a chapter on our community grants that we gave this year, and those are the funds that we've earned and then handed out. They're not flow-through, they're giveaways. And there's a third point you referenced, which is we do a lot of in-kind donations. The space we make available for the food pantry, the electricity that pays for keeping all the freezers running, the money that pays for all the trash collections and disposal, and lots of other things we do of in-kind donations. And I think that's a great idea, and I'll make a note of that we see about some kind of report that outlines all the different ways that we support charitable organizations and the community. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Yeah, I think, and great questions too. And I think that total, including in-kind, plus what we've done with the overage from the Clam Festival, plus the plate collections, is somewhere in the neighborhood of probably $60,000 to $70,000 a year. So it's not insignificant at all. But we should make sure that we look at that number so we feel okay. Doesn't mean that we don't want to make sure that we do the other as well, but it's not like we have not been doing some work that way. So can I entertain a motion to accept the... Okay. All right, Judy Colby George, motion. And I see a second from Nancy Gordon. Any discussion? All right, then all in favor of accepting the 2025 budget? Any against? Unseen, and any abstentions? Okay, so it passes. Great. All right, I'm going to pass the mic over to Judy. And I will say it's been a great pleasure working with Judy this past year. It's been fun. And I think it's been a growing year for both of us, for sure. But you are in great hands for sure going forward. So thanks, Jude.
Well, before you go too far, I would like to thank you for being patient with all that I've had to learn this year, and I hope that Jim Bowie remembers some of his time when he was the last moderator, because that'll be very helpful for me. We have had some wonderful council meetings, and I echo John's sentiments that Jill's been a great leader, and we appreciate her sticking with us as we move from one place to the next. And about 2 months ago, I asked John's wife, Jerry, if there was any place that she thought of or any ideas she had that I could think about getting a little gift, and she said, no. And I said, well, that wasn't very helpful, but I get it. So what I've done, on behalf of the council, there's a little gift certificate in here for West Marine. We hope maybe you could find something to keep your boat afloat. Okay. Absolutely. And we can't let this day go by without expressing our appreciation for all the work and all the note-taking that Peg has done. Every week or every month after we meet as a council, Peg sends us a copy of the notes she has taken, and do you have any additions or corrections? She listens to what we have to say, and then she sends a revised copy out, and we have it before our next meeting. It's really well organized. It's perfect to read. It's so easy. And I know this because one time I had to fill in for her, and I couldn't figure out how it worked. So we thank you for all of your time and all of your effort. And I have a plant over here that's going to go on your front porch, and maybe you can take it out to the island with you. I'm not sure. But right now, it's going to need a drink when it gets home because I didn't want it to drip all over everything here. So I'm going to bring it over and put it over here so you can at least look at it, if I can do it without So, in the interest of making this so it's not the longest meeting ever, does anyone else have any business that needs to come before this wonderful group? Oh, that's right. All of the appointments to the boards and committees, you will find that in your annual report. That would be good. Forgetting half the things we're supposed to do here. Okay. Yes, we do need to do that. You will find a list of everyone who has agreed to serve on deacons and trustees, and we're also going to welcome Jill Weber to fill the shoes, well, try to fill the shoes anyway, as Peg. That will be a challenge, but it can be done. And so if you will take a look at that report, which is on page, thank you, 33, and take a quick look through, and if somebody would be kind enough to move that we accept this as written. Binks. I make a motion that we accept the nominations as written. Thank you. A second? A second. Pam Dietz has seconded. Any discussion? No kidding. Thank you to everyone who agreed. And I know some of that involved a little arm twisting here and there, but it'll be okay. It'll pay off. With there being no other discussion, all those in favor of accepting the report as written? Okay. Anybody who disagrees that would like to say no, thank you? Mrs. Gordon forgot to put her hand down. Okay. Any abstentions? I don't think so. Okay, passed unanimously. All right. And now, I do think that does bring us to the end, now that I've managed to conclude that little detail. Oops. Oh, Brenda, that's right. Brenda would like to, no, she wouldn't like to say a word. All right. Brenda was going to make an announcement about, we do want to remind everybody to please come next week to meet the Reverend Diane Bailey and hear what she has to say, and hopefully welcome her into our church family. Yes, there will be a meeting after church, after worship, just like today. And it will be shorter because it will be involve one vote. So there we go. Okay, I do think we are all done. Do we have to have a motion to finish up the meeting? Who would like to move that we conclude this meeting? All right, Seth Weber would like to make a motion. All in favor? Great. Right. I don't think anyone's going to challenge us, but anyway, thank you.